So, hello and welcome to our Luminary Leadership Speaker Series. I am Deborah Leanne, the host, and I am also a women's leadership catalyst. And what that means is I support really strong and smart women in finding additional ways to illuminate their unique brilliance so they can create a bigger impact and inspire the change that we all want to see. The reason why I've chosen Cassie Nevitt is going to be very clear once I read a little bit to you about her bio and her background and what she's up to in the world. I am delighted to host Cassie today, and the reason for this is she is a personal presence expert. And you all know that if you've worked with me for any length of time, that presence is what I speak about all the time. It precedes our strategies. So as a personal presence expert for women who have training and expertise in their field, but struggle to speak confidently in or about their work, she has created this program that's called Present with Confidence, which helps clients to develop the presence for successful networking, sales conversations, speaking, and video. And she's an industry expert. She's also a level 2 certified teacher in the art of feminine presence and has been certified by Romana, and I hope I say this right, Krzyzanowska in the original and authentic Pilates method. Her passion has always been around helping women show up and speak confidently so they can attract the positive attention that they want and make the impact they want to make. And that directly affects their income. Cassie has more than 4 years of experience teaching the art of feminine presence and 9 years teaching strength and confidence through movement. She has led workshops, classes, and programs in the Chicago area and her new hometown of San Diego. Welcome, Cassie.
Hi, Deborah. Hi, thanks for having me on today.
It is such a delight to have you here. And I was just comparing notes about weather. Here we are in December, and we're having similar weather. St. Louis has about a 55 to 60 degree weather today. And you guys had frost last night?
We did.
Amazing. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. But what I would first like to do, and what I do is lead a small moment of getting present. And since you and I have similar experience in this, I don't know if you would feel up to that, but would you like to just take us through a getting present meditation, or would you like me to do that?
I'd be happy to do that. I'd love that.
Awesome.
So I would just take a moment and get comfortable in your chair or standing wherever you are, and set down anything you might be holding on to and just come into your body, closing your eyes, sitting up straight and feeling your feet on the floor. Taking a couple of nice deep breaths. And as you become present to the moment and to being here with us in this conversation today, just allowing your energy and your attention to sort of drop down in your body and feel that your hips are supported by the chair beneath you. Feel that your feet are supported by the earth beneath you. Just allow any chaos or anything from this morning or from earlier on today that might be kind of swirling around in your space, just invite that to settle down as you come present into the moment and into our conversation. So one more nice deep breath in and exhale.
Love that. Thank you. And there's a few similarities to what I do with my clients. I love that. But you have your own brand of it, which is perfect. Let's start off by, do we want to welcome your dogs or say hello to them?
They're back there. Keeping an eye out.
Okay. So for those who are live with us today, and for those who might be listening a little bit later, I'd love for you to share with us the story. There's an underlying story here of how you moved from your undergrad degree in psychology into becoming a personal presence expert. Do you have, would you share some of that with us?
Sure. I took psychology in college because they were classes that interested me. I'd gone through a couple different majors and I liked going to psych class. So that was what I landed on as a major. And I just love understanding the way that people think and why we behave in the ways that we do. And, I graduated from college and went on to get certified and teach Pilates, which I absolutely love. I still do Pilates. And it was when I was out in Colorado, I had moved to Fort Collins, and I'd started a business for myself. And I grew up incredibly, incredibly shy. So I've always had a little bit of challenge interacting with people, and sort of the social development that most people, I think, get as young kids, I kind of missed out on because I didn't really interact directly with people. My sister did most of that for me. So that was always a struggle. And I did okay until I went to start a business. And as soon as I went into business for myself in Colorado, I realized that you've got to be able to talk about your business, and you've got to be able to have a level of presence and confidence that people actually believe you can deliver on what you say you're going to do. And I did not have that. So I'd go out networking and I'd meet people and tried to talk about my business, and just every interaction that I had on that level seemed to go really poorly and get me really discouraged. So it got to a point where I actually thought I didn't have the right personality. I just was not cut out to be in business for myself. And that was a little bit painful to come to. And I had this realization, it was around New Year's, and I came up with one word that I needed to have in order for anything to work, and it was confidence. I didn't know how I was going to get it. I don't know how you work on it, but that was sort of just what it had gelled into. And in a networking group one day, Rachel Jane Groover, our teacher, sent an email to me after the networking group and invited me to this class, The Art of Feminine Presence. And I didn't really know what to expect. I wasn't necessarily super excited about it. I just didn't know what it was about, but I went. And everything changed for me. I think within 2 weeks of taking that class, people started relating to me differently. And I had somebody that had just met me and spent a day with me look me straight in the eyes and go, "Oh my gosh, you are so confident. I wish I had the kind of confidence that you had." And I'm looking over my shoulder going, who are you talking to? What do you mean? And it was then that I really realized, oh my gosh, this stuff works. It works really quickly. And it's actually possible for me to be able to speak about what I do and have that level of confidence exuded in my business. So I kind of took off from there, just committed myself to mastering presence and mastering the work that she's done. And it's evolved into now really focusing in on exactly the transformation that it's helped me have, is being able to help women speak confidently in their business or in an interview, so that the amazing person that they are and all their talents can actually be seen when they speak.
I love that. It's brilliant. And yes, you are. I would never have ever guessed that you were ever shy. You carry yourself, since I've known Cassie and gotten the pleasure to be with her in a number of different conferences and seminars and intensives around leadership. And she carries herself with such a grace and ease. You just make it look really easy, and natural. So,
oh, thank you.
Welcome. And I have loved this question, and I ask every person that I interview this question because it's one of my favorites, and I believe it is at the core of every successful woman, especially somebody who's out to make change in the world. And that is, Oprah asked Christiane Northrup one time in an interview, "Would you please share with us your morning ritual?" And it's because rituals are so critical to setting the day and how we create what we want to create. So would you share with us?
That is a great question. And it's something I struggle with and I wish I had more structure around. But when I have a solid morning ritual and I know that I'm setting myself up for success for that day, particularly if I'm speaking that day, one of the things that I always do is I drop into my womb space, my power center. And the best is if I can put on one or two songs that are from sort of the Art of Feminine Presence mix that I have on my iPod, and get that movement physically going in my body, drop into my body in that way. Some days it's that. Some days it's Pilates, which, as you know, it's all about the core. So it's getting me into my body in that way and feeling strong and feeling connected all the way from my feet up to my head. Mm-hmm. And the other piece that I do, this is only on days when I'm speaking, but it makes a big difference, and I do it in the morning in the shower or when I'm doing my makeup, is that I actually do vocal warm-ups and I sing so that my voice is prepared for speaking. It's prepared for all the different ranges and things I'm going to ask of it during the day.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. And I think that this is something that I want every woman who is about wanting to create change and to do so in an inspired way, because if you can't get the inspiration if you're not in your body. It means if we have to get out of our head to actually hear what our wisdom wants us to know, and what are the most amazing best steps for us to take that day to create what we want to create. So thank you for that. Tell me, in your opinion, and I know you didn't go to the business school, but having now been a business owner, why do you think being a woman and a leader is so different between what is typically shown and taught in our business schools and in our leadership development programs?
Being a woman in business versus being a man?
Yeah, that there's...
Is that the question?
Typical leadership development is a lot about strategy, right? And being a woman, how is that different in terms of the way we lead and the way we maybe should be taught about leading?
Right. I think, strategy is so important, and there's so much to learn on that front. And I think a lot of times with women, it's not enough. It's not, we see a lot of women who are powerful, who have done so much work to get to the level that they're at and to be able to impact lives and businesses in where they've come to in their corporations or in their positions. And there's something about them where we've used the masculine model, I think, to get there. And so something about their energy isn't coming off and isn't landing well with men or with women. And that's, I think, where we get a lot of the bossy, the judgments and different things of there's something that isn't feeling right. And it's no fault of their own other than they just don't know or haven't been exposed to really developing this side of the feminine and your presence, because that has so much impact. Your presence and the way that you come across is how people feel emotionally about you. It's how they feel in connection to you. And that only happens in a personal interaction or in some sort of a personal connection. And that's not taught, I don't think, in business school. And certainly not in an authentic way. You hear about different gestures and mirror the person and things that come from studies that are sort of interesting, but don't feel authentic. And I think that is, as we say over and over, it's that presence precedes strategies. In a moment, you have to be able to feel solid in who you are and what you're about, and be able to react to different situations in a way that feels true to you and in a way that feels strong and authentic with where you're coming from.
Yes, I am in total agreement. Thank you for that. And it's what I'm here to do more of in the world, model that and teach that.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I'm really big on about illuminating your strengths and brilliance is supporting and coming from a strengths-based perspective what natural talents you already have. And I would love for you to share with us your top 3, I know you have many, natural talents or gifts that you possess that have helped you to reach your current level of success.
My top three. So the first that comes to mind is, I want to say empathy or care, a level of caring for people. And that, I mean, I have it when I interact with clients and when I work with clients, I love that personal connection. And I love coming from that place of really seeing where they're at, really seeing what's the struggle, and being able to be that person that's in that supportive role. So I would say that's helped me get to where I've been. And of course, there's the flip side where we have to look at the shadow of that and be able to be, tell the truth when it's negative and all those different things. But that piece has definitely helped. And the second key word that comes to mind is creativity. And I think that's one of the reasons why it really didn't sit well with me to go back and work for somebody else, is because I know I have all these creative ideas. I like to kind of march to my own beats and come up with and create new things. And without that, I wouldn't have had probably the pull and the draw to stick it out as being an entrepreneur and to figure out how I can make that work. So creativity is definitely a big piece. And let's see, the third. I get told a lot that I have a calming effect, or that there's something about my presence that's sort of grounding and calming. And I wouldn't say I ever identified that when I was younger, but I do hear it a lot. And particularly in this kind of work, it is really nice to be able to have that effect on the people that you're working with, where ideas are swirling, things are going on, and life gets chaotic and we get up in our heads. And to be able to drop in myself and help other people get onto that level where we can hear our intuition and we can hear the body's message arising, I would say has been a big strength.
Yeah, and I also believe I would add to your strength is about it's your natural communication style. It's open and clear and guiding as opposed to directive, which I'm sure has supported you well throughout your years of guiding women to their strongest bodies through the Pilates, as well as opening up their channels to be even more confident in their presenting. So I think that it's a natural teaching style.
Thank you.
Did you grow through a discomfort stage of being seen or up-leveling or growing your business to that next level? And if you did, I'm just guessing, what are the signs or the growing pains? And when do you know that it's time to step up and move to that next level, scary as it may be?
I've had a lot of those. It's like I face one fear, I manage it. I face the next fear, I manage it. So yeah, definitely a lot of that. And it is about being seen, and it's this sort of love-hate relationship with, I know that I need to be seen more. I know that I need to be more visible in my business and get the name out there and all of that. And then I book a couple speaking gigs, I sign up, and I feel really great about that piece because there's something on the calendar. I know it's leading where I'm going, but then the speaking opportunity would come up and it's like, oh gosh, why did I do this to myself? It's really stressful. I'm going to be the center of attention. They're counting on me to provide interesting and valuable information. And I had a lot of times when I started speaking where I would just freak out, and my poor husband would hear it like, why am I doing this? Why did I do this to myself? Can I get out of it? This is just, it's like, why is this a part of my business? Why am I doing this? And then of course I'd get up in front of a group of people and I'd see the impact and I'd see how it affects people. And then it's a very quick way to share your message and to have it land with the right people. And every time after I'd speak, I was like, oh, that was great. That was really fun. And I can't believe I met this new amazing person that's coming in on some level and we'll get to have a relationship. So that goes up and down throughout. And I would say the biggest thing that helped me ride that out, because I did not like that in the beginning. And I didn't want to keep booking gigs and going through it. But the biggest thing was having a coach and a community that I was accountable to. So, it wasn't just up to me to go, oh, I didn't really like that. I'm going to switch to something else. It was somebody outside of me that's going, no, you can do this. And I know that you actually want this. So let's get through it. Let's find the tools and we'll keep moving forward.
Right. So the good thing to know, everyone who's listening, is that we all experience those fears over and over and over and over again. And it's actually a sign that we're at our edge, which is the most creative and empowering place to be. So thank you for saying that so clearly. That was beautiful. The next question I have, and this has always been intriguing to me when I interview women leaders and change makers, and that is that typically along the way, you have your natural gifts, yes, and then there's additional skills that you needed or chose to develop along the way. Would you share with us what a couple of those were for you that you actually had to add to your tool belt that you didn't have before?
Yeah, and the first one that comes to mind, they're all around speaking for me, because that was the biggest challenge, and of course that's the way that I get my business out. But the first one that comes to mind is actually doing videos. And I have a horrendous video that Rachel Jane actually shot of me in Colorado, of me talking about my business. And if you looked at that video, it was very clear that that is not a way I should market my business. It didn't go well. It doesn't inspire confidence. Just my presence was not stellar in that moment. And I kind of sat away from it. I was like, it's a nice idea, but videos are not going to be the way for me. And that was a skill, of course, through developing presence and through going through the Authentic Speaker Academy and really starting to work on developing my skills around speaking, that I get feedback. I'm not going to say this is from myself because we're our worst critic, but I get feedback from a lot of people that now video is one of my strengths. I'm solid on video, and it's actually a smart tool for marketing my business. So that's been one of the things I definitely had to develop because it was not strong before.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And since many of our listeners are probably in that growing stage right now, they're growing their business or their balance with their personal and emotional lives, or they're deepening into their spiritual and energetic and intuitive parts of themselves, they're at this place where insecurities and challenges and struggles are up for them, right? And I'm curious if you would share, if you feel comfortable, I would love for you to share one or two of your biggest insecurities. You mentioned the lack of confidence, yes. Are there any other ones that you've been bumping up against that you've had to figure out a way to deal with?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest insecurity probably always comes, and I know that I have tools to manage it now, but around, are people actually seeing what my brand is supposed to be representing? Do I come across as confident, and do I come across like I know what I'm talking about? And then I'd say probably the second insecurity is around the value of, I've developed all this content, I've developed the program, and I teach these things. And for me, there's something where I just tend to always forget my own value. And I have to kind of revisit like client stories of, okay, this actually made a big difference for them. And remember, this made a big difference for me. And that's probably one of the biggest things that I come up against, is remembering that what I do actually has value. And it's not just words I've put on paper or a manual I've put together of information. It's actually very valuable and has a real world practical application.
That is huge. And that's a big one for me this coming year. My whole focus is on value, voice, and vision. So we need to catch up on that one.
Yeah.
And it's all has to do with throat chakra energy. So we'll talk. But what I would love to know is what helped you to overcome, when you hit up against that value wall or that insecure space, how do you break through that?
It's been interesting because most of the times when I come up, if I come against it in a big way, and I really feel, my whole body just kind of gets tight, and I can feel my heart going, and it just feels like I'm stuck. It feels like I'm not sure how to move forward. I don't know what's going to happen here. And I actually, it's physical. It's like I've got to do something with that energy in my body to move it and kind of get past it, because otherwise I freeze. So the biggest thing for me has actually been, I'm not a runner. I don't love running, but when I start to feel like, oh my gosh, things are not going to work out here, is that I'll take a little run around the block, or even just if I'm in the yard, I'll run back and forth, which is probably great fun for the neighbors to watch. But just something where I'm moving and I'm getting that energy going in my body so that it can kind of release and dissipate. And I can get back to the truth, which is that I'm actually, I know what I'm doing. I'm doing good work and certainly doing the best that I can, which is where everyone is at.
That is amazing. And thank you for that, because it is about moving the energy, and that where we get stuck and constricted and hold on to stuff so tight. Thank you for that. And I think I know the answer to this next question, but would you share with us who has been or is your current mentor, and where, what do you attribute to learning from them?
So it's Rachel Jane Groover is my current mentor. And gosh, I have been with Rachel Jane for, I think it's 5 years now. And there's been so much that I've learned from her. And I would say, of course, the presence was the most pivotal. The presence changed my life. It changed all of this. But there's been a lot of, I've learned so much about speaking and about business. And probably the biggest thing is managing myself. It's the personal side of things. So we learn a lot of strategies. We learn a lot of information that has to be learned. And sometimes that feels like it's the only piece that you really need. It's like, just give me the template, or just give me, the next step I have to do. And sometimes that's what you think you need, but it always will come back to, okay, I'm really freaking out about this. I'm having a hard time getting started, or whatever the issue, the roadblock that you come up against is. And that's been probably the biggest thing, is first of all, having a community and a solid coach that will support that in a really genuine and clear way. And then that secondly is training you to do that for yourself, so that you don't always have to rely on somebody else.
So being your own coach almost. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that is, I think we get to the point where we have to stop looking outside for all of our validation and find ways to look inside to find that. That's brilliant. Thank you. This has to do with, I guess I would love to hear from you on when you hear people, clients, say that they don't have time, or they don't understand the value of investing in themselves or their dream. What do you say to them?
That it depends a little bit on the situation, I think. But if I have a relationship with the person and I kind of can see where they're coming from, a lot of times I will just sort of kind of drop in with them and have them get into their body a little bit, have them feel into what's going on, and really identify, is this a desire? Is this something that's holding you back in your life, or something that you really want to move through and develop? Because if that's the case, we're always going to be busy. And, from an investment standpoint, I never have the money sitting around to invest in any of the things that I end up investing in. But that it's what direction do you want to be heading? And where do you see yourself growing and developing? And if whatever you're thinking about, or whatever is feeling like you may or may not have the time for it, if that's a piece that really is going to serve you, and you can kind of see where that's going to branch out in your life and be very important in your forward growth, how do we figure out how to make the time, or how to carve that out, how to find the money, whatever the challenge is in that situation? Because it doesn't serve people to just block things out, point blank. Like, there's no time, there's no money, there's no possible way of moving forward and growing.
Yeah. And it's a big one. And that, again, that's a value thing too. It's Um, it's not realizing how much value I have. If I invest in me, how much more value and how much more I could do. Yeah. So thank you. I think that's something that gets to be bigger and bigger for me all the time. Especially now as I'm getting ready to offer a retreat. It's like, oh, I would love that. I can't possibly do that. Time, money, and energy is the big excuse, but it's something bigger inside. I would love for you to share with us about your ideal clients. Who are the women or the people that you are here to serve? And can you give us an idea of what that person looks like?
Yeah, so my ideal clients are people that, typically women. I do work with men, but it's typically really women that I'm working with. And it's women that have all the training and all of the skills in their field. So maybe they're a coach and they've gone through the training. They know the tools or whatever business that they're in, but they've got the training, they've got the expertise. And the challenge is talking about it in a way that people get it, that people believe that there's value and results to be had from working with them, and that they feel confident that it's actually an investment that they want to make. And I find that that's a real challenge for a lot of women and for a lot of people in general, is to speak confidently about what you do and have it be sort of a magnetic kind of a thing where people want to ask you more. They want to work with you. They want to spend time with you. So it can be women that sometimes women are really, they've got a big personality and they kind of bowl people over. So they get the too much thing a lot. And they're confident, but it's something about their presence and the way they're coming across that it's pushing people away. And sometimes, of course, it's the people that are more like where I came from, where they're a little shy or they're a little, uncomfortable speaking. And particularly, even for a confident person to speak about your own business and your own value, it's people that are going into interviews too in companies. When you're selling yourself, it's a very, very different thing than selling a company, selling a product, working for somebody else. So anyone who's struggling with articulating who they are, what they do, and having that be in a way that helps their business or their professional development move forward.
That is brilliant. And when can you give us a success story? Tell us about someone who you worked with and what shifted for them.
Yeah. So the first person that comes to mind is a realtor that I worked with here in San Diego. And she was in my 8-week program. So in the beginning, we identified, what are the scenarios that are the most challenging or the most difficult? And for her, it was listing appointments. And those are, I guess you get responded to kind of differently if you're a realtor. People aren't necessarily excited to talk to you. They think you're going to take their money, and it's not an initial trusting, great relationship oftentimes for people. So the listing appointments are tricky. And one of the biggest challenging situations that she was hoping to step into is to be able to go into a larger market. So she was dealing in like $500,000-$600,000 range for homes, which is sadly average here in San Diego. That's just kind of like your normal home sale. And she'd gone up as high as about 1 million. So she'd stretched herself a little bit, but she said, if she was in a situation with a much larger home sale, that she'd be a little bit worried about, am I the right person for the job? Even though she's very experienced and she's an excellent realtor, she'd have a little insecurity about that. And just the whole conversation around the commission, could I still ask for the same percentage and have that be okay? So there was a lot around those sorts of things. And we worked together over the course of 8 weeks. And on the 8th week, she came into class and she had secured a listing for a $3 million home. And that in itself was just huge, because it's, going from 1 million as your top to 3, it's tripling, what's possible and kind of expanding that for her. So that was huge. And the best thing was she was like, oh my gosh, Cassie, in that conversation, I was so confident that I was actually the best realtor to list his home, and he would be, losing out if he went with somebody else. And I knew exactly how much my time was worth. I was not going to negotiate my commission down. I felt really solid in that. And the whole thing for her felt really strong, really capable, and really just solid in going into this hugely expanded new possibility for her.
Wow.
So that was huge. And then what it did is actually trickle down into all the other sales and everything that she's had. So her $500,000 clients are looking at her now differently and going, oh, maybe I don't need to negotiate on the commission because they've seen what she's capable of.
Lovely. Oh, I love having stories like that. That's great.
Yeah.
Tell us, do you have any programs coming up? What actually do your programs look like? I know maybe you might want to explain both the Art of Feminine Presence and your Present with Confidence programs. And are they all in person or is anything virtual?
Yeah, so I'm working on the virtual side of things. I'm hoping to be able to get the Present with Confidence into a virtual program. But it's a process because I want it to really work. I want it to be effective when I get there. So right now, what I do is I do the Art of Feminine Presence, and that's the 5-week course where it's in person. And that's sort of the bread and butter that's running through consistently, that's offered most of the time, not all the time. And those are local. They're here in San Diego, of course. So those I love because it's learning to embody presence and embody your own authenticity, your strength. And it's just a great connection every week to who you are as a woman and that you're capable and that you've got this. And, for me, I love being in the class as I'm teaching it because it's just so powerful. So I teach those. And then in the Present with Confidence side of things, I do twice a year is where I'm at right now. I do a full day workshop. And my next one is coming up on February 6th, which is a Saturday here in San Diego. So if you're local, I would love for you to join us. And that's a full day experience of learning some really powerful tools around speaking confidently and effectively. And most importantly, it's getting practice and getting feedback on those. So it's interactive and you're really getting the experience of how is this going to make a difference for me? How do I show up when I use these things? And you walk out the door knowing that you can do it and you can repeat it outside of the class. Nice. So that's twice a year. And then from there, if you want more and you want sort of the whole thing, then I've developed the 8-week program. And the 8-week program goes into your vocal power. It goes into amplifying your assets and using the third piece, the body apology. So understanding how your body is apologizing for your power without you realizing that it's happening. And we go into both the strategic side and the presence side. So it's helping you develop your message and the words that you use so that they really land with your clients, and developing the presence, which is of course what we're practicing throughout the 8 weeks. So those are the 2 programs. And then I do private coaching, which can be done virtually too. So private coaching will follow the 8-week curriculum, and it's on a personalized level.
Lovely. Cool. Well, you kind of mentioned that what would be next is finding a way to offer your programs in a virtual basis. And probably would still need at least 1, if not 2, in-person intensives to work if you were to do the rest of it virtually. But what else is up for you? I mean, I'm just curious if you have anything else that's on the horizon. We're at the end of this year and a big new year looming fresh and beautiful in front of us. Something up your sleeve or something else?
The kind of the newer piece actually that I'm stepping into is the private coaching and the one-on-ones. And so I do a mini VIP day, which is a 3-hour session that's just laser focused on your presence and your speaking. So building those is part of my goals for 2016. And then also the private mentoring, which is taking an individual one-on-one through the whole 8-week curriculum. It's a newer piece for me. So that's really where my focus is. And the other piece is probably stepping into larger and more uncomfortable stages in the speaking opportunities, the speaking engagements that I do. So that's on the list too.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I was wondering if you have any tips, are quick ways out of overwhelm or stuckness that you could share with our listeners? Do you have anything that you would be willing to teach us now?
Yeah. And, I don't know if the power center or the womb space is too much of a repeat. Is that something that you're sharing pretty often with your groups?
Well, I don't think we can share it often enough. I share it on my show and in my workshops, but I think personally, and a different audience tends to listen to different pieces of my work. So I don't think that there's any harm in repeating that.
All right. So that really, it is my go-to, and particularly when it comes to self-consciousness or overwhelm and just things feeling like you're not really in control, it's what I go to. So it's just, feeling kind of how we started. It's feeling your feet on the floor and flowing your attention and your awareness down into that center point of your pelvis that's a couple inches below your belly button and back on the inside of your body. And then however you can sort of cement that sensation and feel what's going on inside of there. So I like to imagine a glowing ball of light and imagine that glowing bigger and brighter when I breathe in and returning to its original size and glow when I breathe out. And the more that I can do a physical movement to bring my awareness and my attention down to the hips, or, I do squats to ground myself in my legs and just bring my energy physically down, feel my feet on the floor, squeeze my feet, like making little fists with my feet. The more I can physically activate the lower half of my body, the more I start to feel back in control and capable of doing what it is that I was going to do.
Love that. And what if you're getting ready to go on stage? Do you have any little warm-ups that you teach that would be the entry-level things? I mean, I know we don't want to go into all the vocal warm-ups and everything, but what would be a couple things that you would advise for, or even picking up the phone to make to have a conversation that is maybe a little scary or intimidating?
Yeah, and it's probably the same process for all of that, for the phone, for a stage, for any of it. Okay. And I do have, I have a freebie that has video trainings that'll go into a little bit more that's on my website. Ooh. But, and we can get to that. But what I would say is the first thing is that I like to make sure that I'm not shrinking down. So avoid crossing your legs. Avoid, playing with your phone or having your arms close to your body. So before I walk into a stressful situation or go on stage or any of that, I actually spread out. I take my arms out wide. I take my legs out pretty wide, and I'll hold kind of that position because it'll actually change your body's chemistry and have you feeling more confident and less stressed. So I physically do that. I do something to ground into my legs. So again, it could be squats, it could be stomping your feet. It's something to physically bring your energy down into your body, because when you're nervous, the energy goes up, it goes into the head, and we start to get self-conscious and all those things. So physically drop down into your body, get into your womb space, feel the strength in your legs. And for me, I try to avoid busy thoughts. There's always a tendency last minute to go, oh, do I remember the 5 points that I wanted to say? And, am I going to remember blah, 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 blah. And that never serves you right before you go into a conversation or a speech, to have those worrisome sort of runovers in your head. So just to know that you will be much better off if you can trust your presence and being in your body and really, really allow your physiology to be solid and strong. And then the words are going to come and the message is going to come. You'll be a lot more authentic than scrambling through your points and trying to remember all the details beforehand.
Right. And that's when you actually appear real scrambled and scattered, and everybody in the audience feels sorry for you.
It's the last thing you want.
Right. So And that brings us to our next question, and that is around, how do people reach you?
How do
Where
people
do they
reach you?
find you, and how can they get in touch with you if they have additional questions or want to work with you?
Yeah, so the best way is probably on my website, which is just CassieNevitt.com. It's my name.com. And there is that freebie that I told you about. It's 3 keys to presenting with confidence. That is just a little ways down on the right-hand side if you're on a computer, probably in the center if you're on a cell phone. But it's just in a green box. And if you enter your name and information there, you'll get on my list and you click updates about where I'm going and what I'm up to, and tips that are hopefully pretty valuable. And outside of that, I'm on Facebook too. So I post a lot of my events and I post kind of what I'm up to on Facebook, and you can private message me on Facebook and I respond to that. So it's just Cassie Nevitt at Facebook.
Cool. And let me just spell that, since I spelled it wrong. And I've known Cassie for a while. It's CASSIE, N like Nancy, E, V like Victor, ITT. So the last question I have for you is, if you were in a position where you were having a conversation with me about who you are and what changes you want to make in the world through the work that you do, could you just exude your brilliance or share with us your light in that way right now for a few minutes?
So kind of the bigger vision of what do I want my work to make an impact in the world?
Yeah, inspire us.
You know, on a very large level, and I don't know that I'll accomplish this myself, but I think collectively with the awareness of this raising, is I would love to see a lot more really conscious women and men in leadership and in positions of being able to impact policy and corporations, and just the way that a lot of the things in our country and in our world are run. Because I think that's something that's kind of fallen out of it, is the humanness and the compassion and the authenticity of what's really important to a person at our heart and in our soul when we are connected with ourselves and with a higher power, whatever you call that. So that would be my biggest goal, in addition to really being sort of a force that helps women develop the presence and the confidence and the words to raise themselves to that level.
Right. And I really believe that when we do that, it will allow men to relax into their compassionate, courageous, connected, and conscious selves, that we need to model it in a way that they feel that they can relax into theirs as well. So there is something that it's not just modeling for the next generation, but I also feel that we're the ones that are going to be the tipping point for the other half of humanity. So I just want to thank you so much for your time today, Cassie. It has been such a pleasure to get to know you. And I would encourage that if anyone has any questions or would love to know more expansion on any of these things that we talked about today, to feel confident to reach out to Cassie or myself, and we'll be happy to get back with you. So on that note, happy holidays to you. And you need to let me know when you're back in Chicago doing one of your AFP things. I would love to come play, and we'll talk soon, I hope. Okay?
All right. Thank you so much, Deborah. And thanks for having me on today.
You are welcome.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Same to you. Bye-bye.
Bye.